Last time we took a look at Star Wars The Force Unleashed for the Wii, a game that's not exactly good, but has a good story and is fun for a playthrough or two. But now it's time to take a look at the game's sequel, The Force Unleashed 2, which begs the question, how the hell do you make a sequel to a game where the main character dies? Force Unleashed 2 takes place about 6 months after the first game. Darth Vader starts cloning Starkiller, and one of the clones escapes with all the original's memories. He goes to reunite with Juno, Darth Vader has Juno kidnapped and taken back to him on Kamino, and Starkiller leads a rebel attack on Kamino to save her. I find it humorous that this game brags on and on about how the first Force Unleashed game won awards for its story, and then this one has a story that was pulled straight out of Mario. This game you'll launch lightsaber attacks by mashing the A button, not even pretending to be a lightsaber dueling game anymore, but at least you're not left flailing your wrists until you get carpal tunnel like the last game. The only funky thing about the controls is the camera. You move the camera with the plus and minus buttons, and there's basically no way to move the camera smoothly and quickly when you need to. It's really irritating. This game flips the script on the last game's combat. Now your lightsabers are your primary weapons, and it's your force powers that are damn near useless. The force grip requires you to stand completely still, wide open, and taking one hit stops it. The saber throw is slow and doesn't do much damage. The dash can't interrupt your attacks, so it often won't work when you need it. The mind trick has enemies attack one another, but they deal so little damage it's a total waste of time. And the force lightning doesn't actually hit anything unless you use it at point-blank range. Could you imagine if the Emperor's force lightning was this useless? If he had to get so close to Luke that his breath hurts worse than the lightning does? The Force Detective Vision has absolutely no use other than fighting the invisible enemies. The only useful Force abilities are the Force Push for crowd control and the Force Rage, which is so overpowered that the game might as well just end as soon as you get it. It immediately one-shot kills an entire group of enemies, and it charges automatically whenever you're in combat. Even the special enemies go down in one hit to the Force Rage. These giant robots that take like 50 lightsaber hits to bring down one Force Rage downs them instantly. This just makes the entire game trivial. All you do is mash A until you get angry, Hulk smash, and then everything dies. This takes even less effort than the first game's combat did, because at least in the first game, I was using more than one button. I know this fight you're watching right now looks awesome, blades flailing and dashing everywhere, but all I'm doing is mashing A. And that's not even the worst part of the combat. They did the exact same thing that the first Force Unleashed game did. If you die, all of the downed enemies stay dead and none of the enemies regain any health. If you get killed, you just get right back up and pick up exactly where you left off, unless you're in a boss fight. I don't know how much more clear about this I can be, so I'm going to use a little example. This right here, this is supposed to be one of the more difficult fights in the game. There are 2 walkers that pepper you with missiles and take a ton of hits to put down, backed up by 4 tough melee enemies. Now behold the master strategy and brilliant tactics that I use to combat this group of enemies. Oh, yeah! Like a boss. This combat is designed to require 0 effort, and the entire game is combat. 90% of the enemies are basic stormtroopers, and there's exactly 4 special enemies in the game. There's melee enemies that you just wail on, robots that you just wail on and jump their attacks, invisible troopers that you turn on force vision and then wail on, and jetpack troops that you just saber throw and then wail on. This game is so boring. This combat was designed for coma patients. Even the level designs suck. Every room is a tight, completely empty corridor. Not even the slight sense of freedom the first game gave you. Just walk through empty halls fighting the exact same enemies over and over again. That's all the gameplay is, and it sucks so bad. What about the story? The gameplay is god-awful. What about the story? Is it any better? Warning, you are about to witness a Star Wars fan go into hardcore nitpicking bitch mode. Okay, so the opening says Darth Vader is cloning Starkiller to have him kill a captured General Coda and demoralize the Rebel Alliance. The same alliance that knows the Empire uses cloning and would assume he's not the real Starkiller. Vader grew this clone using an imperfect accelerated cloning process because the Kaminoans have never tried to make clones that come out as adults in the 32 years they've been making clones for the Empire. Vader says that Starkiller has his memories because of the imperfect cloning process. Then in the next breath he says that they keep the memories for the Stormtroopers because it helps with training. If they have to go out of their way to add in the memories, then why is making a Starkiller with a blank hard drive such a big problem? Starkiller somehow managed to train a completely new fighting style that uses 2 lightsabers while he was busy being dead! Vader plans to kill this Starkiller clone if his memories come back, but luckily he performs a cunning escape by force pushing one wall one time. You escape Kamino and head to Cato Neimoidia to rescue Coda, because that's what happens when Vader tells the guy who's probably going to betray him exactly where his ally is. Vader does so many monumentally stupid things in this intro that I figured he probably let Starkiller escape on purpose to follow him back to the Alliance, but no, he ends up hiring Boba Fett to track him down because he has no clue where Starkiller is. Starkiller magically changes clothes between leaving Kamino and arriving. Are you telling me Darth Vader keeps a flight suit that he has absolutely no use for in his ship to help the guy that's suicidal enough to steal his personal starfighter? Why do all the cutscenes show Starkiller with red lightsabers when I've got him rocking stylish silver ones? The main bad guy on Cato Neimoidia is some Baron who's built up as being this major bad guy, but we never learn anything about him because they took the character bios out of the Wii version. This Baron has had Coda in an arena for 7 straight days fighting combatants, which seems to violate Vader's direct orders that Starkiller should be the one to kill him. And if Starkiller was born to kill a captured Coda, then why has he been alive for longer than Coda has been imprisoned? You finally catch up to Coda and the Baron sends a Rancor to kill Starkiller and Coda, which gets eaten by the real boss, the Gorog. One wonders if the Baron was so desperate to kill Coda he didn't just open with the damn Rancor.
Attack his hands! The hand! Go for the hand! Now, hit his hand! Now, attack his hand! Attack his hand! The hand! Go for the hand!
How funny would it be if after Coda says that line about 12 times Starkiller was programmed to reply, "Yes, I get it! Shut the f*** up!" For some reason, the Baron keeps sending normal goons to fight you while the Gorog is free, despite the fact that all the Gorog's attacks kill the goons long before they get to you. The Rogue Shadow somehow manages to fly in and pick up you and Coda, despite the fact that nobody, droid or otherwise, is piloting the damn thing. And I'm guessing there's no autopilot since Starkiller was on his 8th pilot in the last game. Starkiller says that he wants to find a quiet place to meditate and wrap his head around this whole "I'm a clone with some other dude's memories inside me" thing, and Coda completely ignores everything he says, dismisses him as an idiot for suggesting Jedi can be cloned, belittles him as a child for wanting 10 minutes of frickin' peace to get his thoughts straight, and berates him for not immediately charging to the nearest Imperial installation to attack it. Starkiller goes to Dagobah for a level that is 10 minutes long, contributes absolutely nothing to the story, contains no enemies, and is only in the game because somebody realized they forgot to put Yoda in the game after they put him in the launch trailer. So Yoda welcomes you to the hallucination cave from The Empire Strikes Back. He says buy what you leave, and his hideously rendered green ass does absolutely nothing else in the entire game. The question of whether or not Starkiller is a clone is supposed to be the big meta question of the game, like is Deckard a replicant, or is Total Recall actually happening? The problem is, I don't care. He's got the same memories, powers, and personality as the original. All of the characters treat him the same way. He's the same person. It makes no difference to the story if he's a clone or not. Plus, Starkiller is so one-dimensional and boring in this game that it's impossible to care if he's a clone or not. His only character trait or motivation in this game is wanting to get back together with Juno. Once you get to the halfway point of the game, he just stops angsting about being a clone so he can start angsting about Juno, so the character arc of him coming to terms with being a clone is just abandoned halfway through. This is the brick wall that unnecessary tacked-on sequels fall into. Starkiller's character arc was 100% wrapped up at the end of the last game, and this game can't think of anything else to do with them, so we end up with a boring-ass story with no stakes where nothing gets accomplished. Starkiller and Coda go to the Rebel fleet to reunite with Juno, but the fleet gets attacked by Imperials. Boba Fett kidnaps Juno using special fear troopers that can turn invisible, which, if Vader has super invisible soldiers designed to extract high-profile targets, you'd think he would have used them to catch Luke on Hoth. You spend an entire hour of the game on this damn Rebel ship, running through identical halls, fighting identical enemies, doing nothing except chasing down Juno. And how pissed do you think female Star Wars fans were when they figured out the only female character in the game is just a thing for the hero to rescue? How come the good and honorable Jedi Knight Coda is the one who teaches you the extremely dark side Force Rage ability? Boba Fett foobars the flagship and escapes, and Coda has the rebel fleet immediately jump to Kamino. Go figure, the enemy stronghold Coda attacked with no intel has a shield they can't breach, the enemy airspace Coda charged into with no recon has an Imperial fleet lying in wait, the heavily damaged flagship Coda used to spearhead the attack quickly gets demolished, and Coda's orders to just attack the Imperial fleet head-on gets the rebel fleet's collective ass handed to them. So now you spend another hour on this goddamn ship, running over to repair the shields and communications. 2 straight hours of identical corridors and padding in a game that's only 4 hours in the first place.
We're getting ripped apart out here! Order the retreat!
Keep pressing the attack!
Yes, just keep attacking the fleet that outnumbers us about 5 to 1 head-on. Coda is the worst general in both fictional and recorded history. His plan for every single situation is charge in guns blazing. Which, yeah, that's my strategy too, but bitch, I'm immortal. Starkiller suggests what any idiot would have come up with by now, crash the unsalvageable ship into the shield to bring it down, and Coda's mind is completely blown by this brilliant strategy. Starkiller heads off to rescue Juno, while General Moron goes off to destroy the cloning operation. So all you assholes who are loudly complaining about John Boyega being a stormtrooper in The Force Awakens and pretending that your complaints were because of series continuity, shut your racist stupid faces and stop making the rest of us look bad. When you track down Vader, you start fighting the psychotic failed clones who are supposed to be tough until I use the Force Rage and drop them all at once. And Coda continues to deny that Jedi can be cloned, as these clones attack me with Jedi powers. Darth Vader manipulates Starkiller into working for him by threatening Juno, and then immediately tries to kill Juno, causing Starkiller to go berserk. Seriously, did everybody drop half their IQ points since the first game? Was there some kind of methane leak at Kamino's cloning facility or something? Vader is majorly annoying. He just blocks everything you try to hit him with and then launches an attack that you can't block. The fight isn't so much a test of skill as it is randomly trying everything until you figure out what you're supposed to do. The game has 2 endings. Either you kill Darth Vader or you capture him alive. And if you're wondering why in God's name you would ever pass on a chance to kill Darth frickin' Vader, Coda seems to think he's going to cave under interrogation and spill all the Empire's secrets. Right. If you spare Vader, the game ends with you flying off with Darth Vader in custody and Boba Fett flies after you. That's the entire ending. The rebels decide to take Vader to Dantooine.
Where is the rebel base?
Dantooine. They're on Dantooine.
Really? You didn't clear out of that base after I escaped and told the entire Empire exactly where it was? Our general is an idiot. If you tried to kill Vader, a perfect clone that Vader grew magically materializes out of nowhere, contradicting literally every single thing from the opening, kills all the main heroes, and infiltrates the Rebel Alliance in your place. So one ending is an unsatisfying cliffhanger that resolves nothing, and the other is a cop-out that contradicts the entire rest of the story. And they didn't make a third game to wrap up the mess they left with this crap ending, probably because they gave Starkiller 2 swords for the sequel and couldn't find a way to give him 3 swords for the third installment. You know, it just occurred to me how lucky we are that George Lucas has never watched One Piece. It's pretty easy to see what happened with these games. The first Force Unleashed game isn't particularly well designed and it can be too easy and monotonous, but it had an amusing gimmick that made the game fun for a few playthroughs, basically making you a god of cranked up force powers and dropping you into the Star Wars universe to raise hell. But the first game also had a compelling story about a Jedi torn between the light and the dark side, a man torn between nature and nurture. The first game isn't what I'd call good, but it's got enough redeeming factors that it's worth at least checking out. The second game, however, being a shameless cash grab to leech off the first game's popularity, is a dull, repetitive, padded out slog of a beat-em-up with a story so token and poorly written you'll forget it the second the game is over. The first game was perfectly fine as a standalone story, and the second game just ruins it by demolishing its satisfying ending and adding pointless cliffhangers that are never going to be resolved. It was only made to make money, and it didn't even do that right. Both Force Unleashed games have been declared non-canon by Disney, so the total ripoff of an ending from the second game is never going to get resolved. And considering how they didn't even have enough ideas to fill out the second game, let alone a third, I think that's for the best. So let's just put this to bed and forget this whole mess never happened.